Well, I've done other films based on letters, most notably Dear America, Letters Home from Vietnam. So I was just reading the New York Times one day, and I saw that this book had come out that was based on letters people wrote Jackie after Kennedy was killed. And I thought, I know how to make letter movies. So I got the book, and I read it, and I was blown away by the letters. So I just, using the handy-dandy internet, I found Ellen and called her. She's in Boston, and I said, hi, you don't know me, my name's Bill, I've done some letter movies, and I did a film called Dear America. She said, I know Dear America, I love that film. And I said, oh, well then this is going to be an easier conversation than I thought, because I was sort of seeing if you could give me the book for free so I could go out and try to, get the movie together. And she said, it's all yours. She actually said, I was hoping you would call. And you that work in the movie business know about the movie god, and you know that sometimes he smiles down and sometimes he doesn't. And that was one of those days where he smiled down.
Of the 800,000 letters that the White House received, at some point on, most of the letters were tossed out. The Kennedy Library has 3,000 put away in boxes, and Ellen discovered them by happenstance researching another film, and they said, we've got a few condolence letters to Jackie Kennedy, and she started reading a few of them and immediately realized what she had landed on, and of course,
did she drop the other book project?
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately.
And she's got 250 letters in the book, and we picked out 21 letters. One of the letters is not in the book, but it still was in the archives.
Yeah, actually, the last letter there, Dick Santoro's letter, I was not in the book, and I called Ellen when we were early on, and I said, Ellen, I don't have an ending for this movie. Is there any letters you didn't use? And she said, well, Bill, obviously I used all the good ones, the ones I liked. And I said, oh, okay, but that's for a book. Is there anything? And she says, well, there's this one letter. It wasn't to Jackie. I said, well, I can finesse that. Yes. And she said, and it was just way too long for the book. It was pages long. And I said, well, we have the technology to fix that, so let me see the letter. And that was Dick Santoro's letter, which I thought, was the perfect button on the film. And actually, speaking of that, there is one, obviously these letters in context are oftentimes sad, but you can't just make a movie that's a bummer. I can't anyhow. Bergman maybe. But I was
Bergman's a Lutheran.
Yeah. I was hoping that I would see some ray of hope somewhere, or something, positive out of all this misery.
Well, let's talk a bit about how you were there at the beginning then of this project. You had worked together before on a film, the two of you, yeah?
We've worked together on many films.
On many films.
No, I call my producer Ann, and then seconds later I call Mark, and then we can make a movie.
Okay, so you were there right from the beginning and with your producer, and you had your subject, and then you went out and were able to get a lot of money, it looks like, relatively, for a documentary.
No, it didn't work like that.
This was done on the cheap.
I was waiting for the no.
This film was done on the cheap.
No.
If anybody noticed, there's no music composer. We used all stock library music, except
very
four
little
pieces of music that we bought.
The Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech isn't in there. We couldn't afford it. Walter Cronkite crying when he says couldn't afford. That's $12,000.
And I was going to compliment you on using unseen archival footage. That was not the standard.
Necessity is the mother of invention. There's all that. That's true. But actually, when I had this idea and I wrote a treatment and I went to my manager and I said, this is what I want to do next. It's got to be somebody in Hollywood that's going to want to do this. And he says, well, call Stacy, as in Stacy Snyder. And I said, well, I don't know Stacy Snyder. She didn't know me. He said, no, she's a nice gal. Call Stacy. I said, well, I'm not going to call Stacy. And she said, well, then email her. Here's her email address. Email her. So I emailed Stacy on a Thursday. I got a call from Stacy Snyder's office Friday. She said, "This sounds interesting, Bill. What do you have?" I said, "I have a treatment. I got a book." She goes, "Send it over." We sent it over that day. And Monday morning, she called and said, "Stephen and I love this. We're going to make your movie." Which I thought, well, that was the easiest movie I ever got made. But what they really meant to say was, we're going to put our names on it and exec produce it and help you get the money. And it took us a year to get the money. It was very hard. I think people kept asking me, well, what's the new revelation? Is there a new babe has come out of the woods? And I kept saying, that's not that kind of movie. It's not about that stuff. It's about how we felt at the time. And nobody was interested. And finally, Discovery gave us a tumble.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And perhaps, in speaking about the movie God or Goddess, the timing now becomes perfect timing for the 50th anniversary of the assassination.
That had occurred to me.
And to Discovery, I imagine. So you've got your book. You've got, how did you then choose the letters?
Well, Bill did that with this brilliant script that he wrote before we really did any pre-production or anything. And based on the script, when I read it, I got very excited about it and said, and could see that we probably could do the whole film without shooting anything. We realized that early on. Other than scanning the letters, that was the only thing really in high def in this film. Everything else was archival footage from the 60s.
There's no recreations.
No.
No, but I have one story. No, I don't. I shouldn't say I don't do recreations. I don't like it. I avoid it like the plague. Sometimes, you gotta. In this particular case, there was one letter, the one from Henry Gonzalez, the Mexican-American postman, which I just loved that letter. Because people felt such a kinship with the Kennedys, and so many, my dad, a lot of other dads, fought in World War II, and they came home and they got married and they had kids and they went to work, and they saw a mirror image of themselves in the Kennedy family, and Henry's letter was just the perfect example of that. And clearly, with the way he's talking, I looked at it and said, okay, I'm going to have to get home movies from Gonzalez, and if I have to fake them, I'll have to fake them, because that's just what I got to do. So we had to clear all these letters. I mean, the book had a clearance for the book, but not to make a movie. So we had to go back to the people who own the rights to the letters and get them to agree to give us the rights to make a movie. And part of that conversation was always, do you have any still photographs from that period that we could use? And then I would throw in, but no one ever had. I said, well, and do you by any chance have any home movies? And I was talking to Henry's daughter, because he had passed away a few years ago. And she said, oh, Dad was an amateur cinematographer. We have boxes of home movies. And again, I went, thank you. And then, of course, when I got those boxes of home movies, was pretty familiar with the Kennedy stuff. And I saw that we actually had identical shots from the two families. And I just, that made me happy. And it made Mark happy too.
We were able to juxtapose piñatas, riding horses, playing on swing sets. It really is amazing when Bill was going through some of the regular rate movie on a little rewinder and seeing some of the imagery we were
just like
seeing,
film school back in the 60s.
and saying, we were just kind of, just pick out more than we need right now. But when I started seeing some of it after we'd bumped it up to HD, it was, I had already seen the footage we'd had from Kennedy, from the Kennedy Library. We kind of call it the home movie footage, and I could see that we were in big luck here.